Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Jeremy Scott Fitness Podcast and Radio Show, coming to you on this Sunday, March the 2nd, 2025. Hopefully it finds you staying safe and staying sweaty all at the same time. On today's episode, we are wrapping with my man, Dr. Bryan Geier. But before that, quick housekeeping things. One, real fast off the top. Again, you guys know Old Man Strength program is rocking and rolling. They are 1 week in. It is a 10-week program where we're doing the first one as a challenge. So we're giving away these insane Old Man Strength t-shirts to everybody who graduates the program, and then some other nice bonuses as well. You can do it anytime. You guys can buy it anytime, do it anytime. We are doing the first one, the kind of annual kickoff as a challenge. The link is going to be in the show notes here. It's just jeremyscottfitness.app/oldmanstrengthchallenge. You guys can join us for that. It's 10 weeks in length. We're 1 week in. You guys can rock and roll with us anytime. And always, you guys know, you get a week for free on the app. Anytime you want to check it out, try it. But if you've got questions, just hit me up. Otherwise, it should be below. And then a real quick shout out to my homies at AG1. You guys know the one thing I take every single day and I never miss. Instead of taking 18 different pills, this is like the 1 30-second health hack I do use. I eat as many real fruits and vegetables and whole foods as I possibly can, but I'm a real person, and to eat 10, 12 servings of veggies a day, I just don't make the time for it, if I'm being honest with you guys. So this is what I take to kind of cover the gaps in my nutrition. You can't eat like a trash can and take it. It is not a miracle, but it does help you. For me personally, the gut health stuff, the prebiotics, the probiotics, the digestive enzymes. Obviously, I think the zinc and the vitamin C for the immune support and all the other amazing things. So again, if you guys want to try it right now, I'm losing my fucking mind here. drinkag1.com/JeremyScott gets you guys your supply of free vitamin D3 and K2 plus 5 free travel packs. Or if you guys want to try a sample for free, message me. I don't care where you live, what state, what country. If you're in a cave in Afghanistan, if you got a mailing address, Monica will send you a sample pack right to your front door. You can try it, see if you like it, and we'll hook you guys up with the free stuff from there. So if you're interested, reach out to us. Otherwise, drinkag1.com/JeremyScott. You guys are good to go. Boom. Perfect. Dr. Bryan Geier. Welcome, sir.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. All right. So for everybody who doesn't know, we can go origin story. Or how did you get here? How did you get here today?
How did we meet each other?
I met you maybe, dude, I'm old now. So well over 10 years.
Yeah.
Probably Kathy Bain. I would imagine that's the intro. And I don't even know when the first time I've worked with you for a long time. I don't know when what the first thing was. Maybe I just came to meet you. But yeah, I've had a bunch of like little, nagging injuries over the years, and that's probably where we started. And I've referred like 1 million people to you. It seems like over the past 15 years, give or take.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Your background, anyway.
My background, I went to the University of Arizona and got a Bachelor's of Science in Physiology on my way to chiropractic school in Southern California, Los Angeles College of Chiropractic, where I graduated in 2011. So I'm almost 14 years as a licensed chiropractor with the primary focus on fascia health. It was my 8th term in chiropractic school. We had to learn about the founder and the profession, doctors of osteopathy. And the slide was written in 1901 by Dr. Andrew Still, the founder of DOs. And it said, fascia is the cause of all disease. And something smacked me in the face and said, there's the truth, get your degree and run with it. So I was heavily influenced in school as an intern, really assessing what the cause and generator of the pain was. And as I would work my colleagues and other patients in other offices, the myofascial release was creating the best results. And not to say that the chiropractic adjustment doesn't have its value, but what I've come to learn is treating the pulley system. I was the kid in class raising my hand. What about the pulley system? If you've got a tight right quad from being a soccer player in high school and it's pulling your pelvis forward, I'm not going to bring you in 3 times a week and keep adjusting your SI joint. I need to work your quad. And that's been my foundation from the very beginning. And I've got lots of research. And when we'll get into that. But that's kind of the origin and why I have bought drfascia.com, because as we get into it, fascia really is the cause of all disease. And in American healthcare, it's been primarily overlooked as a complete total body system that has an effect on every other system and every cell in the body.
So for people who listen and they're like, well, fascia, like I've heard it, or maybe they haven't heard it and they don't even know what the term is. Like, what is you can give the technical version or the dumbed down version of it, I guess.
I just want people to understand. I'm here to teach, and that was, you guys, the Latin definition of doctor is teacher. So what I tell my patients, if you're going to a doctor's office and you're not learning anything, they're not doing their real job. So connective tissue is two parts. It is what everybody knows it is elastin and collagen fibers that form like a spider web matrix of physical tissue that pull and connect all of your cells, your skin, your organs, your muscles, your bones together to make you move as a one-unit human. But the second part of fascia is the extracellular matrix. This is the watery component. This is the environment that surrounds the connective tissue and surrounds all of the cells together. And it's almost in the watery component, the ECM, is where the magic happens.
So when you talk about that, like when someone goes, so essentially it's, because I'm trying to think of like Roger at home listening. He's like, yeah, I don't know what the fuck this guy's talking about. Okay. Like, how does he understand it? And why, I guess what I'm saying is like, I know what you're saying, but why is it important to him?
Let's talk about pain. Okay. Pain is something that brings people into the office.
Or stiffness or tightness and
all of it.
Yeah.
This is, so we're going to just do a little anatomy. Right under the skin, you have the first round of fascia anchoring the bottom of the skin into the top layer of the muscle. There's 3 different layers of fascia saran wrapping and coursing its way through all of the muscles. From there, it becomes the tendon. The tendon attaches the muscle to the bone. From there, the connective tissue wraps into the ligament. The ligament is connecting bone to bone. From there, that fascia wraps into the joint capsule, and then it goes deeper into the cartilage and becomes the cartilage of every joint. And then this is where people don't understand. That same fascia from skin becomes the lining of every bone. So the outer layer of your bone is connected into every part of your musculoskeletal system. So when we talk about like joint pain or a pinched nerve, they're 2 different things. If you're going to really have a pinched nerve at the joint level, it's 5% of the cases, it would be a radiculopathy. You'd have bone joint compression on a nerve, and that would be radiating pretty severe pain through the arm. That's not really the case. The pinched nerve is happening in the compressive load of the fascia, saran wrapping the nerve in the muscle, pinning the nerve, and then you can't turn your neck because that nerve is made of your vacuum cord. It's a wire. It has no stretch to it. And fascia has the strength capability of steel. So as we perform repetitive motion movement patterns, either prolonged sitting with forward head carriage or weightlifting every day for 10 years, your connective tissue will grow upon the tension load. So the more tension you are creating in your reality in your body, when you go to sleep at night, the extracellular matrix is listening to the tension in the collagen and saying, oh, you're really tight and you're not doing anything about it. I guess you like it this way. Let's grow some more collagen and fibers and reinforce you because, man, let's support you. You're really under a lot of load. And you keep growing and growing and growing this connective tissue, creating the compression. And from the tissue, the downward compressive load will jam the joints. And then something like arthritis, severe arthritis, where you have bone spurs and your cartilage is degrading. It is from a chronic load of fascial tissue compressing and pulling that it is pulling the lining of the bone, creating the bone spur. So the outer edge of your bone starts to pull from connective tissue. The bone cells go, oh, I'm separating outward. I better grow more bone toward that stretch, creating an osteophyte. You've now created a jagged bone spur from mechanical connective tissue tension over time.
So, I mean, so the dumbed down version, it's like a saran wrap. That's like wrapped around everything. And you talk about it like in like the sitting, right? And we say it here like you're always practicing something.
Right.
Like whether it's deadlifting, pull-ups, or even sitting, you're practicing over time. And with the arthritis, essentially it's like you've done the same movement pattern or the same practice over and over and over again, and you just have a buildup essentially of this tissue over time. And that's, well, I guess too, the same thing with the pain. A lot of times when people are here, we see the most basic version of it. Oh, my knees hurt is the term. And, or the fucking pickleball shit. My elbow hurts, and it's
Right.
like, what are you doing? Well, they come here and they death grip everything with
Sure.
the thumb, and then they pickleball for 4 hours at a crack multiple times, and then they wonder what happens. And I'm like, well, it's not the elbow itself. It's, we always say almost above or below the joint.
Sure.
And usually what we do is when we have them either roll the tricep, or a lot of times, like if it's the forearm attachment, like we have them push through that cross fiber tissue stretching, and then it goes away over time. But that's really, it's an overuse thing.
Sure. And it's really what's happening is the connective tissue is dehydrated. And when we don't manipulate the fascia to get it hydrated, the 3 ways to do that is compression, which is your foam roller, which is my thumb pinning and stretching. The next one is shearing, which is why I developed the Dr. Fascia breakthrough tool, a steel tool that when you pin it on your skin and tug up and down, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, that creates the shear. That's the cross friction you're talking about. It promotes water. The third is stretching. Stretching will create a friction across the tissue and promote a cellular chain reaction that says, oh, you want to move. You're showing me that you want to move 5 times and I'm stiff. You've signaled hyaluronan to put water into the fascial tissue and create a glide. So the more we move, the looser you get. And what I'm learning through a study in 2018 is repetitive movement stretch patterns. So if your knees are sore, you stretch your quad, pull your heel to your butt, straighten it back down. Pull your heel to your butt, straighten it back down. I'm coining it fascia 40. If you do that stretch 40 times, you create friction back and forth 40 times, more like 80 times, because you stretch it one way, then you contract it another. And by the 40th rep, you go and you do a squat. You've hydrated the tissue. You've created slack at the attachment of the tissue on the joint. You can now glide through that extended knee joint range of motion without any pulling, creating the compression and the tension.
Well, it's so different. Like when even for me personally, if I get up, obviously I'm in my 40s, I still train like an idiot. I puked today, so there's that. But like for me, if I get up and we come here and demo stuff at 5 a.m., it'll be, there's tightness.
Sure.
Like, because I basically get out of bed and I'm like, I got to get my fucking ass here.
Yeah.
And then by the time I go through like 6, 7 demo reps, like I feel fine. But I have a mobility practice I go through every day. I'm assuming that's the normal person. You get up and you're like, I have this tightness in my shoulder or my elbow or my low back, and lack of movement
Absolutely.
is the big thing. And I guess I'll ask this too. All 3 necessary for people to do in terms of like when you're describing it. So in my brain, it's like, okay, I get on a foam roller. Great. I do this cross fiber, cross kind of tissue, shearing, if you will. And then I actually go through like dynamic stretching or mobility flow. Like, does the average person, do I need to do all 3 consistently? Obviously, yes. But like, is there one that's better than the other if someone's short on time? Because it's like, what's applicable for, I'll do them all,
Okay.
but this is what I do. Like my dad, no, he's going to tell me to get fucked. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, so what's the best bang for your buck for people?
I think it's starting to understand that if you have an elbow pain or a neck pain or a knee pain, connective tissue has total body fascial chains. There's 8 different slings of connective tissue. So if your neck is sore, You want to whip your wrist so that your palm is open, your arm goes behind you, you're stretching your wrist, your hand, your forearm, your bicep into your pec, and you look away, you've tensioned out the entire connective tissue chain. If we start learning to move in these dynamic movement patterns where we're stretching the complete chain, it creates a total, we're talking about 2 trillion cells. We're working 2 trillion cells as one unit, and the more cells we can initiate a cellular activation through repetitive stretch moving, the better. If I isolate my elbow and just Theragun it, and I strip it, and I foam roll it, that's good as a warm-up, but you should always follow up with complete fascial range of motion stretching, maxing out the stretch, and then maxing out the contraction. And that's going to get more integration.
So like big bang for your buck, it's if you can hang from a pull-up bar would be ideal.
It's yes and no, because it's not, that's only working like the lateral chain and a little bit of the front. You want to be able to, I guess most bang for a pull-up bar would jump up, stretch down, contract your shoulder blades downward, and then drop again so that you're creating range of motion in the serratus, in the lat, all the way through that shoulder.
Yeah, like scap retractions. You can let the feet drag in front, back, actually rotate through the hips a little bit.
Sure.
I think if your feet can drag, you can do some QL stuff too.
Sure. Or you drop down, tuck your chin, touch your toes, stand back up, jump up, hang, drop down, touch your toes, and get into a washing mechanism, stretching the back chain, and then, because when you're hanging, you're really going to be stretching some of the front chain as well.
For sure. So basically like some type of mobility flow.
And I guess,
or whatever you want to call it.
Fascia flow, mobility flow. It's called Qigong. Like 4,000 years ago, the Chinese were given wisdom and information, and we call it traditional Chinese medicine. Everywhere there's a fascial chain in your arm, in your abdomen, in your leg, it correlates 100% to an acupuncture meridian. So they knew about these chains of energy and fluidity and cellular communication. And so their healthcare movement program is Qigong, which is a deep, slow fascia stretch movement that they can say do 8 reps or do it for 15 minutes straight. And the more you're just moving in a fluidity manner, you are washing the tissue. That's kind of one of my gripes with yoga, and all you yogis don't come at me, but in the beginning, if you're a Jeremy Scott and you haven't done mobility and you go to a yoga class for mobility and they're asking you to get into a warrior pose with your arm up, looking up, and you're tight everywhere, you didn't wash the fascia. So 1 rep of washing, you're straining the tendon, your arm is fatiguing, you're tight, and it rips at the lining of the bone. So you're miserable, you're hurting. And yoga's hard for really tight people. So a dynamic movement based, and I get that's why they call it flow yoga. You'll feel good at the end of yoga when you do an upward dog and downward dog 40 times. You feel great afterwards.
Well, it's like the beginner class. You got to do like a intro, like the power flows. They're too fast. Like, because again, you're not used to the movement patterns either.
You're
like,
learning all of that.
Yeah, like now I can go do it. I'm like, but me 6 years ago, like, no, I need the blocks for one. And like some of you just can't do the patterns. Like it's just, I'm like a brick, dude.
You're too tight in that pattern. And so let's ease up out of it and just side bend with a reach, 20 to 30 times or 40 times. And then when you go into a warrior pose, you've got your arm up, your lat isn't fixated into your rib cage and into your low back anymore because you've done the washing to create the hydration.
But for that's to me like a mobility routine, a practice. It's that is the new, especially if you're, at any age for sure, but especially as you do get older, it's the price of admission to train. Like you have to do it. That's your ticket to get to work out hard. Yet people come and they think, well, I'm just going to do the exercise and then only do mobility stuff. We jam it down their fucking throat, so they don't have a choice. But people tend to do it only as a default. or it's how we do health. It's really sick care, not even health care. You only go to the doctor when you're sick.
Right.
We only get stuff after there's a problem. We never do anything like preventative.
Right.
But to me, I'm like, there has to be some type of, you should have a daily routine, especially like movement prep stuff. If you're going to go train, like you're going to run or hike or do lower body training, upper body training, there should be some type of, just even to check in to see like what is tight and what is stiff before you go pick up load and do stupid shit.
Absolutely. And that's where you get torn muscles and strains and, compressed nerve and your workout. I think you say it, don't let your fitness rob you of your fitness. When we don't perform the mobility, injury will show up at some point.
Like, what's the most common thing like you probably like treat or see, or like your biggest demo of people? Like when they come to you, like what's the top 2 or 3 things that are going on? Like, what is it from, I guess? Is it just like, is it sports injury? Is it just sedentary lifestyle shit? Is it a mix of something?
It's a combination of like what we're talking about. It's a buildup of your life's worth of stress, traumas, physical activities, and static posture. So I'll see 25% of my clients in a week from I slept and I woke up and my back hurts. Well, that will happen if your fascia is dehydrated and you sit in a position for 4 hours. When you get up, your fascia is steel. So when you go to twist or move, it's compressive, and then your brain receives the signal and you're in my office. A lot of shoulder issues. Again,
and are these people who train or just
either or? It's
like someone who never fucking works out comes in like, my shoulders jacked.
Well, they sit, so they're, I've got dentists. These poor dentists are pulling people's cheeks open all day, slouching, rotating, and their bodies in a position, or surgeons or the front desk gal. I'm sitting in this chair
for 7-8 hours a day and
just using a mouse. If your elbow is not supported by the chair armrest, or you don't sit your belly toward the desk and put your elbow down and navigate that mouse, your upper trap and your tricep and your deltoid and your neck is literally holding a 30-pound arm all day, every day for however many years. Eventually, the compression will build up and create a clamped nerve that will signal a pain response.
It's just you've created a big enough imbalance over time to where it's jacked you up.
Fascia is a chronic condition, and we haven't even gotten into the word stress. Stress is a blanket term for your emotions. I'm feeling overwhelmed. I'm feeling anxious. What is this email from my boss generating over my being for the next 2 hours? Stress is a mental signal in your mind that then makes your brain think. Once your brain starts thinking, you elicit your heart, and your heart generates an emotion. And your heart is your living consciousness, your state of vibration.
Doug White's here. Doug White's back right here. You remember Doug? I'm talking to my cameraman. Doug White? You filmed Doug. Yeah, Doug's fucking out. Yeah. Geier and Doug are like, they're stepbrothers.
Well, so
yeah,
when you understand fascia,
I know what you're saying.
Being connected to tension. Okay, so would you say stress causes tension?
For 100%.
Okay. So what quantum physics is teaching all of us who are studying consciousness? What's consciousness? Consciousness is an invisible thing, right? But you know that you can think, and you know that you're Jeremy Scott, and you know you're connected to something higher than just your brain and your body. There's like a voice in your head.
Yeah.
That piece is energetically conducting a frequency field around your body and around your cells. And as we understand that in Western culture, they suggest that stress is the cause of all disease. So you and I have said that stress causes tension. I'm taking you down this road where chronic thoughts lead to chronic
stress,
emotions, anxiety, stress, worry. Those build up as tension zones in the fascia, where there's a psychiatrist that wrote a book, The Body Keeps the Score. Quantum physicists have discovered that we don't store these emotions and traumas of life events in our brain. We store them in our body, in our tissue, in our groin, in our trap, in our tricep, in our elbow. And in that localized zone of stress and emotion, it creates fascial tension that starts to pull. And what I have in front of me is a study called Cellular Mechanotransduction from Tension to Function. It's in the Frontiers in Physiology. It's a systemic review basically saying that fascial tension connecting to 40 trillion cell membranes, including organs, that tension will start to denature the gene expression, causing all disease.
So, I mean, really, it's your essentially like chronic stress is the cause of all of this.
What I've come to find is if you're a decently well-balanced individual and you hurt yourself and it's physical, that injury goes away in 2 weeks. Whether I see you or not, it will start to get better. People who I'm treating, 99% of the time, I'm treating chronic pain that was flared up from something else. Oh, I just put on my shoe and my back went out. Well, that doesn't exist unless there's something there prepping the pulley system that takes it out.
For sure.
So now we have this whole concept that Dr. David Hawkins is the godfather of consciousness, power versus force, healing and recovery, letting go. We are learning that these pent up, suppressed emotions in our body that we're not feeling build up as fascial tension and create pain, disease, and suffering. And so when I'm a chiropractor who wanted to help people in pain because I know it robs them of their life, their joy, their sense of self, I wanted to be able to give them that sense of excitement and a life worth living again. That was that would be a fun career. And that would be a way for me to give back. And it's a win-win. I like that job. I can be passionate in that job. And when I start to realize that pain is so much more complex and connected to suppressed emotions from your entire life's existence, it now has become a 5-year, highly passion-filled job of discovering how do I treat this tissue with all of my fascia knowledge. And what I've come to discover is it's love. So this segues into a man named John Barnes.
Yeah,
Yes. So because all of what we're learning through consciousness and vibration is that all the human body is frequency. It's a vibration wave. And your current state of right now, what are you feeling, is generating a frequency wave from your heart. So your heart expands a 20-foot field of vibration frequency waves. Your brain only shoots out a 3-foot field. So do you want to think or do you want to master feeling and knowing what you're thinking about and what vibrational emotion you're generating? And you also start to realize that you're in control of what you're choosing to feel at any given time. We get caught up in victimhood and we get caught up in other people make me do these things, but it's still your choice to vibrate at that emotion. And that's all Dr. Hawkins. He created a scale of 0 to 200, which are all emotions that lower your vibration. The lower the vibration of an emotion like shame, guilt, depression, worry, they create a stronghold of an energy in your tissue that starts to create tension build up over time. And that will live in what the Chinese, this is the correlation, is when I studied acupuncture to connect fascial chains to neck pain coming from someone's right pec, that is the lung meridian. And in their study 4,000 years ago, the lung meridian is connected to worry, grief, and sadness. And I said, oh my gosh, they've known about emotions 4,000 years ago. So that gets very exciting because Hawkins' whole philosophy is that suppressed emotions cause all disease. And now we're connecting it to fascial tension changes the tug on a cell membrane and dictates cellular action. That cell will either kill itself off because it's under so much load that it's denatured its structure. That's called apoptosis, designated cell death. You know what that's called in 2025? Aging. Holy shit, I don't want to age. Well, guess what? Figure out your emotions and figure out your fascial tension, because that'll start to slow down aging. Number two, that tension on the cell membrane will cause cell differentiation. I've got someone's low back right by their bony prominences, and I feel these little nubbins of flippy floppy fat cells. So a normal lat and paraspinal muscle anchoring into your hip over 20 years or 10 years of tension is denaturing the muscle cell and the fascial tissue around it into something like a fat cell. So I've taken muscle cell, and that muscle cell under so much load went through a genetic expression change into a fat cell to create space, try to create a buffer and say, I'm under so much load. I need help. I need you 2 or 20 billion cells to turn into fat to space the tension. And if you keep going down that route, that fat cell and that muscle tendon and that tissue will turn into calcium, and calcium will turn into bone. And now there's no form of treatment as of yet that we can do to undo bone into your soft tissue. That's saying you're under so much tension, I'm solidifying you because you haven't heard my pain. You haven't heard any of my signal to get your ass to do some mobility work. And number three is the gene expression. Enough tension pulls on the cell membrane, and then that pulls on the inside of the cell cytoskeleton. And then that pulls on the nucleus called the nucleoskeleton. And when it pulls from there, the DNA is trying to write a code. So when the nucleus is being tugged on through fascial tension, it's like you've got to write out a blog or you got a memo to your boss, but you're holding a coffee cup in your left hand, you're brushing your teeth with your right while you're doing Skip It from the 1990s, and you're trying to type a message with the end of your toothbrush, and you're trying to get this memo out. You screwed up in the memo. You're spilling coffee all over it. That's your DNA trying to write a gene. It's screwed up in its coding. And now a protein is made and you've created dysfunction. Your optimal being is now being coded to go into a state of disease based on tension.
So essentially it's this, wherever the chronic stress comes from, and it creates this tension in the body, whether it's you're deadlifting 500 pounds for reps, that is a stress that you put on the system.
Yeah.
And it's not an emotional stress. Even if you like to do it, there is a certain amount of fucking stress that goes on to the spine and the hips and everything. Or if you sit at a desk for 8 hours a day in this shitty hip posture and you lose your upper back and you lose your lower back and then you're stressed as fuck at your job, like that creates a stress. Or I guess the other example is like when you argue with your wife, same as me. We don't do it sitting like this right here.
Right.
I don't do it laying down. Like
Right.
you have like your fighting stance.
Right.
Like your arguing stance is much to, and Heather, how she puts her hands on it, fucking hate it. She's not chill at all, but we're not though. It's kind of like your fight or flight. And if you're in that for extended periods of time, like this is where the body is like, what you need to change it or we're essentially going to fuck you up.
Right.
Is what you're describing.
Absolutely. And that segues right into right brain versus left brain. Your left brain is fight or flight. It's the reactive state. So you're reacting to every bit of your surroundings. And that stress response creates your sympathetic nervous system to fire, and that will cause muscle tension. And muscle tension will stimulate in the fascia, the extracellular matrix. The end-all be-all cell in the fascia is called a fibroblast. The fibroblast under tension turns into a myofibroblast, which is just a muscle spindle component to it that this tiny little cell, wherever it's at, touching 18 other cells, it starts to pull on everything. And that prolonged left brain stance is creating tension nonstop. The right brain is your adult brain, is your non-reactive, calm stance. Okay, I just yelled, but let me tap into my adult brain, take a deep breath, elicit a sense that I still love my wife and that she's attacking me. And maybe it's an old emotion about me as a child where I didn't get to have a point. And so then I scream at her and I need to get my point across. Jeremy, I don't know many people that don't have childhood repressed emotions.
That's why we come on Sundays. It's a prerequisite. You got to be fucked up a little bit.
And this is the funny part about, everyone's like, Bryan, you need to go back and get your psychology or psychiatry degree so that you can, double dip.
We all have shit, man.
Yeah.
Like that's the thing. Like it's a
Yeah.
real, like,
So
at my house, here's how I describe it. Like I can come home on a normal day and Heather starts talking shit. Dude, I ain't been here all day. I got up in the black and I went to work. All I did was make money here. This is not to talk shit about Heather because she's not here. She'll come out and she can defend herself. But she knows she does this. And she's like mad. And I'm like, she'll say like, what, put your clothes away or like scream. I go, what are you mad about? Because it ain't the clothes. Like it's not, I don't know what happened at your work today or whatever is going on. I go, but it's not my, and I do it too. Like you're hangry, you're tired, you're whatever, you're stressed. Like there's 15 different things. And then you just happen to be the outlet for it. But everybody does that shit.
right,
And then, but it's a practice you've done for 25 years,
Right.
32 years, 42 years. And it originated from somewhere.
right,
Like it's a weird thing that we do. And it's like in the moment, like I guess it makes people kind of feel good. But then you have this like, I don't know what you would call it, like remorse for being a fuckface.
sure,
Like, yeah, I was being an asshole. I didn't really need to trip out about like the dishes or the laundry or
Right.
whatever the thing is.
Right.
It's a weird thing that we
and
do.
I think we like when you're married, you have a belief system where you get married so that you have a person that you can do that with, or
It's
you can
weird.
throw all your trash
Yeah.
on.
I'm like, do this to people at work.
Right.
Don't do it here.
Yeah.
Do it, but you can't.
And you're supposed to hold the right-sided adult brain and not go into your inner child where this isn't fair, this is unjust, this wasn't my responsibility, how dare you, I don't deserve this. The adult self holds love, respect, gratitude, compassion, acceptance, and forgiveness, and is able to hold a frequency to sit and be there for that person who is in the 0 to 200 level consciousness, feeling unheard or effort unreceived or overwhelmed. Overwhelm is, I think, what people are feeling when we call it stress. I've got so many things to do. A lot of women, and your wife to be will be mom to be, she will be doing 20 different things in her mind every day to prep for baby, for you, for her, for the house. And when you come home from work, she's exhausted from the overwhelm of all the thinking. And just
take it as it comes.
I mean, you take deep breaths and realize that it's, her soul, her heart. And
But I think that's what a normal person, like an average, again, obviously moms for sure, but a normal adult who like you have a job. Again, it's you see, I don't know if it's a meme or the graphics, like, yeah, just waking up today, trying to be as fit as I can, trying to learn everything I have to learn, trying to be a good dad, brother, son, like all the things. It's like, it's fucking impossible.
right.
And I've said this for a long time, like, and you run your own business, you do all this stuff. The pace at which we do things, it is not healthy.
No.
Like, I'd be the first person to tell you, like, what I do works for me in some like fucked up serial killer type of way. I go, but even I recognize I'm like, I can't do all the things I used to do, nor do I need to. They don't serve me anymore.
Right.
I go, but the pace of it is it's insane. Like, this is an insanity race we're running, and I'm the only one who's running it. Like, there's no
one's making you.
No one gives a shit if I do or don't do it. But I do feel that the average person does feel that because they go to a job and they have these unrealistic goals that the boss puts on them. And it's like they're rushed to get up. They're rushed to come home. I'm going to feed my body this shit food. I'm going to skip the workout. I'm going to go home and I got to clean the house. I got to do this. It's like, it is a lot to take on.
Yeah.
And I guess what I'm asking, like, other than like, obviously movement is obviously medicine. If you guys do fucking move around, it does fix a lot of things. It will not fix everything. But what do you tell the people that you see who they come in? Obviously, the movement stuff is a given. To me, that's just like it's a box you check. Like, yeah, it's a huge box, but it has to be done. Like, what are the other things? Because I always was from the school of, and this is not a knock on anybody, but I would be like, oh, you got to worry about your breathing. I'm like, get the fuck out of here, dude. This breathing bullshit. I go, but when you think about it, what's the most important thing we teach here? It's really breathing. Because if you can't breathe here, you're fucking dead.
Right.
Like, that's the reality.
Right.
But yet we don't spend as much time on it because it's hard to sell and whatever. I go, but there is something to that. Like, when you catch yourself in fight or flight, when your physiology does change, like, what do you walk people through? I guess if they even catch themselves when they're in their shit.
Sure.
Is there anything that you do tell them?
Yeah. This is why the fascia connective tissue system is called the awareness system. We can't get anybody to, first off, knowing that tension creates a change in the cell function and the gene expression. For any of you out there that know Zach Bush, he is a 500 level consciousness love being who's connected to nature. And he was an MD who's gone holistic. And he says, I now no longer believe that there's any man-made medical pill or substance that can improve the body any further than how it was already created when you were born. And that's really profound. Healthcare exists.
Like medications and stuff?
Yeah, medications. But
like steroids for sure. Look at Arnold, bro. This dude is jacked. Dude is jacked.
And that's the thing is
I know what you're saying. Yeah.
We can heal all on our own.
Well, that's what I was going to say to you. And I think I would assume everybody who listens to this, like, understands, because then we've had 100 doctors on here at this point. Like, I think people think, well, we get hey, my shoulder hurts, my elbow hurts, I'm going to go get a shot.
Sure.
And again, temporary, obviously, Band-Aid on a gunshot wound, or I'm going to take a pain medication.
Sure.
I'm like, that goes to your brain. The pain medication doesn't go to your ankle. It doesn't go to your elbow. It goes to the signal in your brain. Also, when you take drugs, medications even, and again, I have my own take on a lot of that stuff because it's just, they put you down a rabbit hole of one pill leads to another pill, and it's the greatest reoccurring business model of all time. When you look at like birth control, how that started, and that's the kickoff to it. So it's a different podcast altogether. The crazy thing is your body, the drugs don't heal your body. If anything, like even antibiotics or something, which obviously they have a purpose, it just allows the body to heal itself at a different clip.
Sure.
It's not that the drugs actually heal the body. Your body does heal itself. For everybody who's listening, so we know that. And a lot of these medications don't heal. They're just
symptom maskers.
And what they consider, and this is my take with surgeries too, and that's why I do send people to you, because I get people who are in here who, that's what I want to talk about too, the first line of defense, because they come in, they're like, well, my back hurts, I'm going to go meet with the guy, a surgeon. Well, cutter's cut, dude. That's what they're going to do. That would be the last fucking case scenario of all things. I'm not saying that isn't needed for some people. I go, but people just jump the 10 steps. And the key is like, what can I do to get my body to actually heal itself? Give it the time and do all the things. And I think in healthcare, people think like, well, if I take this pill, it will heal me. No, it just masks the symptoms. And my point was, even with the surgeries, what is considered a successful outcome to them versus you, the patient, is two different things.
Right.
So they might say the surgery was a success, but you're still living in chronic pain. You still have the same issue. And if you just would have done the 10 steps before, you probably could have avoided it and got yourself back to maybe better than before.
Yeah. And that's
a lot, I know. But.
Well, it is, but just like you said, we only show up when we're in pain. The prevention model isn't educated into our society yet. And
it's not profitable for the major.
It's not.
No.
And big pharma, as we evolve and fascia research comes out and the new generation wants to do mobility, look, there will be generations that die off. And then we've got our kids, we've got new generations. And if we teach them that mobility matters, and it's the number one form of healthcare because it keeps your nervous system, your fascial system, and your cells all at a homeostasis, an equilibrium of balance and optimized cell function. If you do that, your body will heal. It will stay healthy. Your immune system works. Your immune system lives in the fascia. So let's talk about the lymph system real quick. Your lymph gets rid of your toxins. In America, doctors will say toxicity overload is the cause of disease. That's how your liver becomes cirrhosis and it's fibrotic and it stiffens, and your kidneys, they deteriorate. You go on dialysis. You throw in a fascial tension on the kidney, it's going to start denaturing the cells of the kidney so it doesn't work well. Then you create a clamp around your entire body and all your lymph nodes and all your lymph vessels. That's a river. There's a river of water where the cells spit out their toxins, and they've got to go through these rivers to get to the lymph vessels, to get pumped into your heart, to get pumped into your kidneys for you to pee out the toxins. If your fascia is so stiff, it's clamping the river, and your toxins can't even get into your lymph, and they can't get out of your body. So mobility, shaking on a vibration plate with movement, is healthcare, is loosening your fascia through friction to stimulate water, plump up the river supply and the flow of the river to get toxins out of your body. But let's not do movement and shake machines and let's give you pills, or this is the whole funny thing of like a liver detox or a cleanse. If you're not moving, how much of your lymph system is getting the toxins out of the body from the cleanse you're doing? You just mucked up and created a push of toxins for them to go nowhere. And that's why a lot of people get sick on detoxes, because they didn't actually remove the toxicity.
Well, it's not a perfect like analogy, but it's like you look at water that doesn't move.
Exactly.
Or
Stagnant water, what is it going to do? It's going to turn into a algae, disgusting pond. So that's the perfect scenario of fascia. And what we're talking about with toxicity and lymph is, like, again, naturopaths, I love them. They're trying to help through this 40 trillion cell system. But if I've got fascial tension, clamping my organs and clamping disease, that is the same as me saying, okay, go to the naturopath, get an $800 bill for all of these IV infusions of great things. My analogy is, you've got a pond with a fish and there's so much pollutants. There's heavy metals, there's bacteria, there's toxicity overload in this pond. I take the fish out of the pond. I give it some infusion of vitamin C, ozone, glutathione, and all these vitamins. And then I'm like, all right, I'm going to set you back in the pond of pollution. What kind of therapy and treatment was that in the long run? If I didn't get the toxins and release and infiltrate fluidity in my body for my body to naturally detox, it's going to be hard for me to push that level of therapy, because I'm a purist with movement and what fascia generating water and hydration will do to the health of your cells and your organs.
So for people, if you get people who come in who are not active enough, or they don't do enough things, like what we would say is, just if you come here, like, we're going to give you the shit that you probably don't want to do.
Right.
Like the necessary things where, like, nobody really wants to ride an assault bike unless you know, have emotional issues, or nobody wants to push a sled or do farmer's carry. I go, but putting load on the body obviously creates muscle mass, keeps bone density, and all the important things you need to, obviously, as you age. But I go, on the other days, just do the shit you like to do. Like,
that's it.
Default to the things that you will
joy.
do. Yeah.
What creates joy in your life that you're creating?
But I know there's people who generally don't like exercise, or the way that they frame it. Like, do you tell them, like, hey, here's like at least a step count, or get into a deep squat each day, or get into the pool and move? Like, is there something that you give them as just like a baseline prescription?
Sure. And I'm in the process with all of this new information. I'm formulating my own Dr. Fascia movements, where I'm incorporating 40 movement reps. I've got arms for neck and mid-back pain and shoulder pain. I've got leg movements. A lot of it is knee over toe guy. A lot of it is quasi-yoga moves, but it's just
like that's all like it's sexier physical therapy.
Exactly.
Really what it is.
And the funny thing about Ben, is that his name? The knee over toe guy? Nobody is he never talks about fascia. He's like, I did my knee, but I need you to do 1,000 reps of the ATG split squat. You guys, if you did 40 deep lunges every day for 3 months, you would restore range of motion in your hip, decreasing compression in your low back, stretching the fascial tissue in your quad, your hamstring, your calf to loosen up the compression in your knee. He doesn't talk about it was due to 10 years of his fascia repetitive movement protocol that got him to where he can now go into a range of motion under load and refortify the fascial tension on the tendon, creating strength and integrating that into the nervous system.
It's just an insane amount of all that stuff. That's all it is. It's an insane amount of repetitions.
There's nothing new under the sun. I'm just going to modernize Chinese Qigong and Tai Chi with physical therapy-esque, repetitive movement-based stretched fascial chains, maybe with some music.
Yeah, in my brain, it's just a workout program. It's here's the sets, here's the reps, whether they're for time or whether they are for like a rep count, it's the same. What is what is a daily investment for people? Like when someone listens, like, well, how long is this going to take me? Are you talking 12 minutes, 14, 28, 32?
Yeah. I think a minimum of 15 minutes doing a couple isolated arm or leg for your hip or your shoulder for your specific pain, and then maybe 4 to 8 minutes of some total body movement. Anytime I have someone, let's just say for low back pain, if I make them do 80 marches with a side bend, so that's 40 each hip flexor. Our hip flexors are inside our abdomen. They are fixated, shortened, and they compress the spine. So if I make them side bend with a contraction, lifting that knee up, I'm contracting it and stretching the opposite side 80 times. The infusion of water will come in. You wait 10 minutes, letting it marinate. They arch their back, they bend down. They don't realize that after they drank their cup of coffee, their back doesn't hurt. So that's a go-to holy grail movement pattern. But I got an old lady that can't turn her head to the left. I push on her left calf and I shove it upward. She can turn her head to the left because that's all one posterior fascial chain: forehead, head, neck, mid-back, low back, butt, hamstring, calf. They're all one unit. And if she used to walk 10,000 steps for 20 years and now she doesn't, but she has a tight calf, it's pulling on her neck.
Over and over and over every step.
So her protocol is 40 to 100 calf marches to stretch the calf tissue to signal 720 miles per hour is how fast your fascia is communicating at a cellular level, all the way up to her neck. That if she does the calves and she waits 20 minutes, she might not even notice that when she's turning her neck, she has 50% reduction in pain and increased range of motion.
Yeah, it's crazy like how, I don't know, like I think a lot of this stuff now too, like how everything's done when people go into places. Like they'll go in, it hurts, let me do, like PT, right? Or even if someone comes to see you, they'll go in like they have an issue with their shoulder or their knee, or if it's their neck, for example. And they'll do all the protocols until it gets better. And then a lot of times it's what we see here. Well, I'm going to exercise and eat this way until I lose the weight. And then when I get there, fuck it, I'll go back to my old shit. And I'm like, no. You have to keep doing the things that you've always done, and you probably have to do a little bit more because Father Time is trying to run you down. And for you, like, do you see that where people, they'll do it, they'll feel better, and then they kind of go back to their old shit, not understanding that you have to keep some of this forever. Like it's just a lifestyle piece that has to go with you all the time. And if you don't, it is the kind of if you don't use it, you lose it. Because if you're not going through full range of motion, even on your lifts when you train, over time, like you're going to lose the ability to get into those positions.
Right.
And that's when you get like catastrophic stuff. And not to get serious on here for people, but when you can't use the toilet unassisted, or you can't get off the floor without your hands, that's fucking wild.
But you're lumping people who love themselves enough, value putting in effort, and are willing to be well. We have.
Is it weird though that you've never, like you go through obviously I'm not a huge school person. I think a lot of it's fucking bullshit. I don't have a solution either, anybody, but what you're doing is it's not fucking working. Because you don't, like, nobody, I meet adults who, these are people here that are, dude, I've worked with doctors here, dude, who are taking a shit once a week because they're eating 7 grams of fiber. These are doctors. Are you fucking kidding me?
They know it.
Or people here like, yeah, Jeremy, I poop every 4 days. I'm
Yeah,
like,
that's not.
do you understand? Like, that stuff's accumulating every second of the day.
That's 78 different gases of toxicity infusing into your bloodstream, getting to other organs from that buildup of poop.
Up to 25 pounds can be in your body.
Yeah.
That's fucking wild, bro.
So that's a hip flexor issue. That's a fascial issue from tightness in your quads. Because as an athlete, everybody in this gym has tight quads.
100%.
That's what we use.
Yeah.
And the thing is nobody wants to stretch them because they freaking hurt. And that's the dilemma. So you guys in Arizona, at least, in your pool in the summer, walk through your pool, stretching your quad in a standing position, 40 reps all summer long, and work the reps to stretch your quad. Because that quad tissue in your thigh is anchoring downward, pulling on fascial tissue in your abdomen, in those hip flexors that are yanking on your lining of your intestines. And once the intestines at a cell level are being tugged on, you're denaturing the action of the organ through tension of your quad. So this is why I'm Dr. Fascia trying to start, you're the first podcast where this type of education, it's my mission. This is a humanitarian effort to really, for all the people out there who are putting in the time doing the mobility, you're ahead of the curve. Your discipline will lead to a total body longevity in healthcare.
Well, and that's, I guess what my point was, is like, with that, there is no education on it in the school. And that's what I mean. It's like, we get people here who, when we say it, I still think, I'm assuming more people know when I say like, hey, what do you do for mobility? Like, what do you do? I just will say stretching because it's what they understand, but there's nothing. And there is no education around it. You're getting, again, graduate high school, college, whatever, and that's not a class. Right. You're not taught that. I go, and no offense with the internet now, like, I'm not saying learning history isn't important, but dude, I can get that shit on ChatGPT in 15 fucking seconds.
There's a major shift coming with all of this. And I think it's exciting coming from the guy that chose to go into chiropractic where I can't prescribe drugs. I've never believed in them. That's why I didn't go get a doctorate of medicine degree to become an MD. I get that they have been the people that people looked up to, but to me, I don't see the service. Don't get me wrong, America is amazing at catastrophic healthcare, and we need it in the hospitals saving lives. In terms of chronic care medicine, no.
We have the worst outcomes.
We are.
We have the worst outcomes of like a developed country.
For sure. And so you throw in the lifestyle, the stress with the sitting, with the crappy diet, with the harsh crap that's in the food in our diet, with the overwhelm. It's a recipe for disaster, and I get exactly why we're at where we're at. So I didn't mention before, what do I tell people who are in these phases? We're learning that breath is the number one way to calm your fascial tension, because it's going to trip you out of fight or flight sympathetic nervous system and put you into parasympathetic nervous system. I think it was a study that said we're supposed to be in parasympathetic nervous system 93% of the day, which means you're in a state of relaxation, stress-free, low blood pressure, perfect digestion.
For almost nobody.
Yeah, the doctor can't poop because he's stressed, because he's working, because he's trying to help, right? And whatever, and all the other stuff. But there's something called box breathing that is for overwhelm, the fight or flight. Inhale for 4 counts, hold for 4 counts, exhale for 4 counts, hold for 4 counts. And the research in fascia is the least amount of breaths in 1 minute will decrease the tension in your fascial system. So what I've been doing is, think about if I say, Jeremy, only breathe 2 times a minute. Do you think that's going to be hard, or let's try?
Well, I'll tell this story quick. Like when I did, because like I would go to, when my back was fucked, I would see you and Dr. Russ. And I had met him like before, I think I met him like right when my stuff was fucked. I think I did that podcast like on one knee because I couldn't fucking sit down. Dedicated to you guys. But his whole thing, and he said it on here, his breathing was the 5 in, he does 5-15. So 5 in through the nose, 15 out through the mouth. And that's kind of how they pair it. And they do it with the vagus nerve stim shit. But he had me try it here, and I'm like, that is hard as fuck if you're not used to it at first.
Sure.
And I did think it was kind of, I thought it was bullshit. Like I do think most things are. I trust nobody, basically. Like everyone's against you until they're not. So I'm like, this is kind of bullshit. And then he's like, oh, just go do an MRI just to see like what is. And I'd never done one before. And I thought, I know who people are like, oh, MRIs suck. And I panic in there. I'm like, excuse my language. I'm like, you guys are just pussies. And I went to do one. And within the 10 seconds, my heart rate is 300 beats a minute. And I am so close to hitting that panic button. Like, if I hit this, though, I got to fucking do this again. I'm like, there's no way. So I had my eyes open like an idiot. So when I closed my eyes finally. But my point is that I don't know if I got to the 515. Like when I'm in his office, I could do that. It's easy. When you panic, it's harder. But I probably got down to 4 or 5 breaths a minute, which was the only fucking reason that I made it through that thing. Because I was in there for like a half hour.
Right.
That shit's brutal. I go, but my normal breathing was so fast. Like my heart rate was too high. You start to you freak out.
You wig out.
You have a panic attack. And I've never had one before. So yeah, to your point, to do 2 breaths a minute is fucking insane. To do anything under 3 to 5 is like you have had to practice for a good amount of time.
So we're challenging the listeners right now, driving, listening, sitting, whatever. You inhale for 4, hold for 4, exhale for 4, inhale for 4. After 2 rounds of 4, make the box breath 5 seconds. After you do the 5 seconds, make the box breath 6 seconds. After 6 seconds, make it 7. And after 7, make it 8. And if you do the math, 8 times 4 is 32. So 2 rounds of 8-second box breathing, you get your 2 breaths per minute. And if you climb it that way, you'll realize that you can do it. And if anybody's having trouble sleeping at night, calming down anxiety, go into box breathing and get yourself to 8-second inhale, 8-second hold, 8-second exhale, 8-second hold. You will calm your system. And I'll be doing this. This is a good segue into what I was getting at with John Barnes and quantum physics and love. John Barnes is a PT. He's an older guy, and he's in Sedona. He's trained over 100,000 massage therapists, PTs, chiros to do his myofascial release method. What his method is we find, let's say like low back. I got you on your side. I'm palpating your outer glute, and when I pull downward on it, it tugs on your back, and it creates a pain response. You're looking for connective tissue when I pull it at every vector, up, down, left, right. Wherever that fascia isn't budging, that's where the tension is. So he puts his fingers and he tractions the tissue where the tissue doesn't budge. He says if you hold it for 2 minutes, you get great results. He says if you hold it for 5 minutes, magic happens. We're communicating a tug at 720 miles an hour upstream to all the connective tissue. Billions, if not trillions of cells are anchored into your butt. Because think about it. If you are holding a weight and you're doing lunges and stuff, and you bend your body to the right and go down, that butt is connected to all the tissue up in your torso, up in your neck, right?
For sure.
The difference is he's telling his practitioners to vibrate from their heart and hold love energy. You can heal. You got this. And they genuinely care about their patient providing healthcare. And this interaction from the heart space that creates a vibratory field around the patient, they're creating like an atmosphere around the patient. When that patient goes into 8 breath breathing and surrenders into their body relaxing, and they surrender to the pressure from the practitioner's love envelops into the electromagnetic biofield around that patient, and they become one. And that energy of the practitioner is shooting through the hands into the cells around the body, integrating this swirl of a change in frequency that all the cells are listening to. So this sustained hold with intention creates magic. And if you look at the Fascia Research Congress in Switzerland, there is a bullet point of study in fascia called phenomenological experiences. And that is kind of faith-based miracles start to occur when you use intention and love. There's a frequency in the quantum field that takes over the body and creates a change and a shift at the patient's level to receive it and believe in it.
I mean, is it kind of like, I guess though, I'm going to give you the Jeremy's dummy version of that. Like when you're around someone who's just kind of a fuckface, you know what I mean? And they just suck. You know what I mean? Like they're just always like in a shitty mood. Maybe they're not like mean to you, but they just suck. Like, you know, when you meet someone and you're like, man, this person, and I don't mean like the external cheerleader bullshit, like, cause that's not who I am. And I don't really care for that in my life. But when you're around someone like, oh, that's a good person. Like, and you just kind of feel like, and they're always like, not that they're in a great mood, but like you just feel better around them. And then there's people you're around, you're like, yeah, so-and-so's like a creep. You know what I mean? Or they're just like, they just suck.
Yeah.
Like that's how I picture this. And I guess that goes...
You can feel it.
Yeah, and it goes into like how you talk about yourself. Right? Like and I do believe that. Like, it was serious or joking or whatever, but there's people who like, have you ever watched The Last Boy Scout? Shout out to Bruce Willis. He gets up and there's a scene in there. It's like my favorite fucking scene of all time of him. And he gets up and he looks in the mirror and he's like, he slept in his car because his life is falling apart. And he's like, you're a loser. Everybody hates you. You're going to fail. Like that's how he starts his day. And it's just fucking awesome. I'm like, but if there's people who wake up and that's what they say, like, and they have this, the perfectionism stuff, or whatever. And they're just always negatively like, I'm old, I suck, I'm too stupid, I'm too dumb. They adopted this belief system, and that's an energy that they put out. And I do believe there is something to, like, you do attract that stuff. I think if you're like a good human and you have like good intentions and you go out and you work hard, those people do find you. It's not like, that's not marketing. Like, I think sometimes people think this business is like, I have a room here today full of 30 people, all different walks of life, all fucking obviously mentally damaged in some way to be here. I go, but they're all good humans and they've all attracted here. And yeah, fitness might be like the vehicle that brought them here, but that's not why they stayed here. And I do think there is something to that. And I know it sounds crazy, but like you attract kind of what you put out. Like I do think that is a real thing.
Yes, this is my study with Dr. Hawkins, and frequencies, emotions, whatever we're vibrating at, you enter into a quantum frequency field that matches that already exists. And so you're attracting people where you're vibrating at. And now you've got all these 30 guys and gals that are matching your frequency. That is what you're attracting, because your current state of existence is actually living in a frequency field. This is hard for people to understand because it's invisible. This is the science of metaphysics. You can't see a lot of shit. Like you can't see gravity, but you believe in it.
Yeah, and you can't, like, whether you, like in your take on grounding and stuff, like you can't see that. You can't see the vitamin D coming.
We have to start believing.
Yeah.
This is where you say, "Oh, I know this is hard to believe." Like, not anymore. I think we're in 2025. The people who are waking up to understanding that our beliefs and our thoughts and our current self-speak and love for ourselves, we do. This is, and everything, it's been out there. It's the mystics in the Bible, in religions, it's Shakespeare, it's Newton, it's all the philosophers over time. They all say the same stuff. Why are we trying to not believe in it?
Well, no, and I think that it's anything, it's perspective, right? Like when you look at again, it's the same, like the worst thing that ever happened to you is the worst thing that's ever happened to you. So whether that's like, your parents got blown up in Iraq or your iPhone is not working. You know what I'm saying? And I know that sounds crazy, but to a 7th grade girl in Scottsdale who has had an amazing life, her iPhone not working that's fucking kids.
Right.
Because she's framed it that way. And that's what I guess when you talk about like her belief system is, this is the worst thing that's ever happened. Now the guy whose family just got fucking, a bomb dropped on him, he doesn't give a shit if the phone works or not.
Right.
Because in the moment, it doesn't matter. And that's like when people say like, you can't see it, I go, yeah, but those are two things you can't see. And both those people are in a struggle, but yet from the outside, it looks like this is perfect and this might suck. I go, but there's a belief there, like, and it is powerful. Like in your brain, everybody's felt this too, probably, where okay, here's my example. So I have this, what is this? The Dexcom, the glucose monitor. So Sarah's got to plug me again next week because I tried it a week ago. I did this on, Sean wasn't here for this podcast. So I had to do one quick. So she has me plugged up. I do the workout. It goes to like 300 because that's during these workouts, your shit will go insane. And then afterwards, it goes down to like 40. So this glucose monitor beeps 3 times while I'm here. Like you're at 52, 40, anything under 50. It's like you Google it. It's like, you're going to have a seizure and a coma or fucking die. And so I do the whole podcast. I'm like, maybe I'll see you guys next week. Maybe not. I go home, don't eat all day, working on this baby shit, pick Heather up from the airport. It's beeping as I'm driving, like about to drive to the airport. And I'm like, am I going to fucking die? And not that I felt the same as I always feel after the workouts.
But now you have a belief.
But I Googled it and then I stood up and I'm like, am I dizzy? And then I'm like, and I get in my truck and I'm like, am I going to crash this car on the way to the airport and be dead? And because I had kept reading this shit on Google, I'm like, am I really fucked up? And like, obviously this is a week later, I'm fine. But that's my point.
And you've lived like that for a decade.
If this thing didn't go, first of all, I thought someone left their cell phone here because it was beeping. I'm like, what is beeping? And it's like telling me like you have a critical alert. But that's my point is that your brain is very powerful in that. Where you can frame like your life sucks or it's great and somebody else could live your same life or different life and think it sucks or it's great. But this is real for everything. And I think the same thing for pain too, like perceived pain, real pain, all the stuff. It's like, and I've done this as well. And I'll stop talking in a second. Like I've done it too, where like obviously my back was fucked. I couldn't put fucking underwear on. Still come in and work out though, because I got to do that. But my point was, is like, it was awful and it was painful. But then what you do is like, when it starts to feel better, you almost like search for it. And I don't mean that in a way of like, you want it to hurt, but you might be in a posture where you're fine. And then I'm like, well, does it hurt if I do this? And now you're almost like looking for it. And then it's like, you're almost like guarding against it when you do a movement. So if you're going to sneeze, let me get in my sneeze position. Or if I'm going to do a lift, is it going to hurt when I do this lift? And it's like your brain, that's not a physical thing. That's your brain and you thinking for it, searching for it, doing whatever. So I guess my point is, we've all done that, but your brain it is very powerful and it can physically change your body. Like you can give yourself a rash, you can give yourself a panic attack, all just by, I know it sounds fucking crazy, but just thinking about it, like it's real. I've done it, obviously.
Whatever you hold subject in mind becomes your reality. So if you want to change your reality, you have to. My biggest thing with my clients is, dear body, I set the intention to, and you start proclaiming a new belief system, something that no longer serves you, like you said. And I admire you. You're a skeptic. You're not a skeptic. Enlightened people who want to evolve, you only evolve through self-discovery.
For sure.
So that's all you're doing. You're doing the universal law of enlightenment, which is discovering for your own. And that girl with the phone, and it's like me, my dad died when I was 10. I was robbed of childhood innocence. So I'm doing a little bit of therapy, trying to manage certain anger in my life when I feel anxious, overwhelmed, people pleaser, codependent, and I burst. It's like this anger output. But what I'm going back to my 10-year-old self and realizing is, I'm angry because I lost the gift that I'm giving my kids. I had to become an adult, and the people after the funeral, hey, you're the man of the house now. Like, no, I get where my anger is coming from. It's from statements like that. Like, I'm 10. Don't put that shit on me. Why are you doing that? And I realized that I gained some great gifts. I gained ability to learn how to communicate with people at a young age. And you're
more responsible, and there's a lot of good stuff, but there's
I had to mow the lawn, a 3-hour yard job every other Friday, and I didn't get to hang out with friends, and it sucked. But my kids see their dad doing chores. I'm good at them. I know how to do them, and I have good work ethic. I'm not a lazy bum, and they're just by them seeing me do it thousands of times, they'll be that when they get older. That's the hope. And they're going to learn as they get older. But
for sure,
what Hawkins says is we all possess and hold from birth till death is like our divine right of innocence. And when that's taken from you as a child due to a trauma, you tend to be jealous of others that didn't have to go through that, or you're bitter, or you're sad, or you're worried. It changes us. One of the things you'll see with your child is the best advice I got as a parent was when you react to something your kid does, it's because they're getting away with something you didn't get away with. And so this inner child shouts up and reacts because you're jealous. It's unfair. You're bitter. You're angry. But the right-sided brain that is the adult unconditionally loves them and lets them make the damn mess because you can handle your overwhelm. Really, we got yelled at a lot as kids because parents were in fight or flight, overwhelmed, and they yelled at us to stop crying, stop doing this, go clean up. You can't do that because that's going to make a mess. It was all just to fight their own overwhelm.
Oh, dude, I've said that on here 1,000 times. I thought my dad, I don't know if he hates me or not. Now he doesn't because I'm old. I thought this motherfucker hated me, bro. Because he would come home and I'm like, why is this dude always mad? And then I would picture his life. I'm like, so he drives a truck all day, gets home, walks upstairs, needs to make a drink. Obviously, he's on edge already. And then he comes home, it's like me and my friends eating food, messing up shit, fucking up his day.
Right.
And then he's got to deal with that shit. And then on the weekends, he's got to drive to these awful sports tournaments in like nowhere, Minnesota or Wisconsin or South Dakota and sit there with people he don't want to be friends with and watch us play these shitty sports games and then wait for 6 hours till you play the next game. And that like what became his existence, right? And then he's dealing with like, I got to make money. I got to go to this job. I don't, all the thing, and then just puts it on you. And I'm like, oh, that's why he's pissed all day because his existence fucking sucks. Like it's not probably what he wants to be doing at 26 years old or whatever the thing is. Like, so I do grasp that, how people will imprint their shit on other people. Also with the kid stuff, and this is my thought for a long time, like, and again, that's why I'm not a huge fan of school. We fuck kids up.
Yeah.
Not just like in terms of like posture and stuff, but they're meant to be free.
Especially, look at a kindergartner. My daughter has all the energy in the world, and she's getting yelled at for not being able to sit still on the carpet because she's 5 and can run 3 miles in cross country. Like, girl needs, like, sitting is not moving.
Like, go into like, don't be creative. Don't move.
Right.
Don't say anything. Sit here.
Listen,
get in a stand line.
still.
Shut the fuck up. Sit in these seats. Like, that, I think, is so jacked.
I think that I'm a being of hope and faith that
it gets better.
It will get better. Because if I hold the belief the other way, then that fucking sucks.
Yeah. I mean, I agree.
I'm not going to hold it any other way than we're going to figure this stuff out.
Yeah. At least sit on the floor. Something. Let him move.
I took one pediatric continuing education, and the main thing they stressed was cognitive function of the brain improves with movement. So it doesn't make any sense to sit still and memorize shit. That's like 5% of your brain. And if you go to Denmark and you go to Norway and you go to these other places, they've got kids outside playing. They don't even start reading in Denmark till they're 8 because they know it's pointless. Let them go swing on the branch and play in a river and dam it, and then find a way to fill up this center over here. Dig, like just be creative. That is what. And this is Rudolf Steiner. That's a lot of his schools. There's a school down in Southern and Baseline, Waldorf. There are schools like that. They do farming. They do stuff where they're
shit.
They're doing real shit, and that's what I think we'll go back to.
Yeah, because I'm like, how do you go from, especially when you see the numbers, and again, it's not about just like obesity and being overweight and metabolic disease and all the prescriptions people are on, although that is you make a good case for any of it, but you don't have like physical fitness in some of these schools.
As the number one.
No, some of them don't even have it at all.
Right. Why? Because I don't know why.
Like at all?
I mean, so I don't want to be a conspiracy theorist and say that the government is evil, but
no. But it seems like that would be, and again,
if they wanted us to succeed and be healthy and be happy, then we would be implementing information that we know to be true, and we're not.
Yeah, which is kind of crazy.
And that's why we're living in the world we're living in 2025, because innately we're fighting the despair, and our nature beings know something's not right, and we're pent up with like something's not fair, something's not right energy. And we're at that agitated state.
I agree. And I think when you look at, I always do it by like the time you spend in a day on certain tasks. That's like really what gets me. So like obviously like something like screen time, which for most people is fucking atrocious. And I'm not against screens. There's a lot of good stuff that comes from the internet. There's funny shit. Like I'm not against all of it, but also like the amount of time you do sit at your desk and do your job, which is, let's say it's 8 hours per day that you sit in essentially hip flexion in a shitty stressed posture.
Sure.
Yet you can't work out for 30 minutes a day, which you don't need to work out for 8 hours a day, but a half hour, you can get so much ROI on that. And we look at it as like, it's strange, right? Like, let's say my lifestyle, and obviously it's not for everybody, but really what do? I get up early, I come to work, I try to be a good person, I exercise, I eat real food, I go home, I go to bed at a decent time, I don't abuse drugs and alcohol. That's it. Now, the results might be extreme because of what I do inside. I go, but short of that, like, that's pretty basic. And then if I go somewhere, I don't always have to have 10 drinks. I don't always have to eat like a fucking trash can. But yet I'm looked at as like, you're so weird. Like, that's how far away it's gotten, where it's strange if you get up from your desk 1 minute every hour on the hour to like touch your toes and walk around.
Right. You're the weirdo in the.
But dude, and I always say like, it's like your house, or like you have a dog too. Like if an alien came to this planet and watched what we did, it would think your dog ran the fucking house. Because you go to work and you make the money and you feed it and you pet it and it's great. It would think the dog was the king and you guys were just living there. And I think if it came to like watched your daily life, it's like, you guys are spending all this time sitting on these boxes, right? Like looking at all this shit. It's like, I'm going to sit here on this screen and my screensaver is going to be the forest and some fucking trees. Oh, isn't that beautiful? Well, I could just walk out in the fucking forest and look at the goddamn fucking trees and touch them. But I go, but we don't. It's like we've created this whole system of like, let's not be healthy and let's be stuck in here when it could be complete. And again, I don't have a solution for everything, but I do think there's an insane amount of time discrepancy we spend on certain things that are putting us in the position, obviously, that we're in, which is crazy.
Well, and this is exactly why I have a career, and this is why I've gone into fascia, because it's your body's keeping the score of the accumulation of all of your physical stress, your mental stress, your emotional stress. And this is an interesting segue to just more of the crazy, like energy medicine is starting to become known, or like sound bowl healing. All of those things are affecting the fascia. So everything that is a frequency is creating a wave into your tissue, into the extracellular matrix that's water. So water is this great conductor of vibration, right? If I send a wave through water, it's going to ripple through it. And that's why Harvard made a study in 2017, I think, or a little bit after, that fascia is the meta system of the human body. And we're here in America and we're like, what's fascia? It encapsulates every other system. So you are talking about hormones, adrenaline, cortisol. If I have a fascial compression over the thyroid gland and over my kidneys, I'm going to have a hard time actually getting physical hormones out of cells into blood vessels, out of the blood vessels back into cells, because the tight fascia from your stress is blocking the hormone system. So tightness is affecting hormones. Tightness is affecting lymph. Tightness is affecting your nerves. It's affecting all of your digestion. Fascia is the meta system affecting every single organ. And I think in America, we've really done a disservice. We're just trying to be different. That was America. The Industrial Revolution says, how can we be different and creative? And it's taken us away from something like Ayurvedic Indian medicine and Chinese acupuncture, movement medicine, and needles and herbs from earth. And we try to do something different with medicine and system. But fascia is a 40 trillion cell integrative system. And I can't have a specialist working on the nervous system when they're not talking about fascia and connecting to other systems. I can't go to an endocrinologist. I can't go to an oncologist. The fascial system is touching everything. And when you tie that to suppressed emotions and energy blocks, and you got the guy doing the deadlifting who also holds suppressed energy, it's so complex and integrative that I think it's exciting for like Kairos PTs. What you have to understand is if I'm going to be hopeful for the future, body workers and movement specialists will become the primary care physicians for humans. People who are loving and touching humans and creating a shift in the tension in the body will start to downgrade disease.
No, well, and again, that's typically the people, all the people I work with, they're all like that. Even the medical, like my primary doctor, like she lifts, like she train, like that's why I go to her. Because I would go to another guy and I'm like, bro, you don't even lift, dude. Like I can't, I'm not even fucking listening to anything you say. And I know it sounds like a bro answer, and I don't mean that like he doesn't really train. He didn't train. Like, and he didn't understand what I was saying. And my goals were not important to him. And he was measuring everything off of like blood work, which we could talk about quickly too. Like where you're coaching to a number and everything is just kind of the same. And you're just compared to the other 2-year-old guy who's over 200 pounds. And I'm like, bro, this is different over here. Like,
Right.
And that's like where, but again, like, and if I go to someone who, and again, that's my problem with the whole system is like a normal primary person sees 1,000 people a year, which is fucking wild, and you're probably not going to remember me unless I come in looking a certain way or I do something completely different. But I like someone who like, okay, they train, we have a relationship, there's a connection there. Like I do believe that there is importance there. And that's kind of how I pick all my people, whether it's like you guys or like the actual medical profession. But it's tough. And I think some of this, they have to stick to the script.
Right.
And like, that's where like, I'm not like bashing medical in general. There's a lot of amazing people out there and they're doing the Lord's work because it sucks and the system is, you have to basically burn the whole fucking thing down. And there's too much money and there's too much infrastructure and that's the hard part. But they work in a machine.
Right.
Unless you work for yourself, you can take the time and you can go over 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes. You can spend the time with people. They can't. They're on a clock. Like they're an employee somewhere. And that's tough. And then for them to try to, it's almost like, this is what I've always thought about the healthcare stuff, is like you almost need someone where they have the physician that they see or the primary contact point, and then there's a behavior modification person that they go to next, that then they walk them through the steps and say, hey, you can take these pills,
Right.
and this is the Band-Aid on the gunshot wound kind of quickly, even though it really doesn't solve it, or here's these 10 things we can try for the next 8 weeks, then come back and we'll see you. And the same thing like with your music stuff, and I know people like, he's talking about fucking bowl healing. I go, yeah, but when you go to like get a massage, this is how my monkey brain thinks of this. When I go to acupuncture, get a massage, they don't play fucking Metallica.
Right.
It's not fucking relaxing. We play it here because we're trying to die here. When I go there, it's like they're playing whatever fucking kind of, earth general music that they play. I go, but it's relaxing. It calms you down. Your nervous system is down regulating. Like you can actually relax. I do think there is something to be said about all those things.
Well, and there's already studies proven that you'll go weak in a muscle test listening to death metal. The frequency of the notes and the music actually affect your biofield and make you go weak. So you really want to listen to higher vibration music. Like they actually say that the Beatles have really high frequency music. And if you look at the words, Let It Be, All You Need Is Love, they were very simple songs with really high frequency messages. So the words and the notes combined create higher energy music that's going in your ears, into your fascia, into your entire being. So again, we have to be open-minded toward understanding the invisible.
But that's the music to me, like that stuff's an easy one. Because it seems like when you like walk,
it evokes emotion.
Yeah. When
immediately.
You walk into a coffee shop, they're playing Godsmack.
Right.
The vibe is different, bro.
Right.
Than if they're playing like, 311 or something.
Sure.
It's just a different feeling. So that part I do get for sure. But yeah, but it is strange how, I don't know. I guess what would you say, like when someone is, I guess we'll ask it this way. Like if someone is in pain, like what's their first, like the first line of defense for them? Like, hey, my knee hurts or they're having tightness or whatever. I mean, we can talk about all the stress things too,
Sure.
but just someone who's listening like, hey man, my ankle hurts, my knee hurts, my shoulder hurts. What's the first thing you suggest like for them to do? Because most people's default is do nothing.
Sure.
So they say, I'm not going to move it. I'm not going to use it, which I don't believe is the answer.
No.
And then, okay, let me go to my primary person, get referred to whoever, and it's shots, pills, or surgery typically is kind of the order the average person goes in.
It's using your awareness. It's kind of taking a 5-second pause and saying, okay, left low back, I hear you. You are, let me communicate to you and realize that you're a 6 out of 10. Let me ask for more of you and sit in you in a peaceful, neutral state. The number one issue with pain is that the majority of people have a belief system that pain equals suffering. Would you agree?
Yeah.
So once you go into a state of pain equals suffering and your nerve goes into your brain, again, your brain then is going to think a thought. It hurts. What am I going to do? Oh my God, how am I going to live my day? My day's going to suck. I'm going to be miserable. I'm going to be in so much pain. I'm going to suffer. Those thoughts evoke an emotion of worry, of fear, of anger, of frustration, all lower level frequencies that actually keep the pain alive at an energy level. So what neuroscientists who are talking about neuroplasticity is a loop from your low back pain to your brain. Brain sends a signal back down to your back. The brain communicating back down to the back where the pain is what we don't do. So all you're getting is, I'm in pain, I'm in pain, I'm in pain, and you're not completing the loop. To complete the loop from a quantum physics way, and even the neurologist that wrote the book didn't even address this. He just realized and figured out that if you go to a state of neutrality, I'm in pain, it's a 6 out of 10. But in this moment, sitting in this room in pain, you say, but I am safe. In that phrase, the thought and the words of I am safe tells the heart to evoke and elicit a vibration of inner peace. And inner peace is a frequency that actually changes the neuroplastic feedback loop to a properly working, healing new nerve pathway. And we didn't even talk about it. We were talking about pain, but we've discovered that pain isn't even real in neurology. It's not real. It is a belief. And once you believe it's real, your nervous system starts to chime in and turns it on. And they've done studies where they have 5-year-olds watching their parents in the desert, the Native Americans or tribes. They're walking across coals and nobody's saying, ow, ow, ow. So the 5-year-old goes, no one's in pain. Let me go do it. And they go do it with no pain because they're not seeing it, that no one's reacting to it. So they're not holding a pre-belief that that's going to hurt. Ultimately, without the belief, it doesn't actually hurt them. So it's so complicated. We are learning with everything we're talking about in this podcast where we've gone astray. It's becoming aware and being neurotic of every thought and what emotion it's evoking in your body. When you can sit still and start gaining control of what you're actually feeling, take a deep breath and go, but I am safe, and say a different phrase. I set the intention to let go of worry, for I know that I have no control. Therefore, I give it up and I hold inner peace and I move on with my day. I'm going to go turn on a song. I'm going to get lost in the song and get out of it. We tend to hold too much thought and worry into the pain response that we keep it going. And Dr. Hawkins says, realize that the pain is neutral, remove the fact that you're suffering, and just say, I set the intention to ask for more. And say, I am safe. And breathe those box breathings for 2 to 3 minutes, really focusing on it, allowing for it to exist. And what you'll notice is as you practice it, 3 minutes in, the pain will spontaneously go away. Because what you've entered into is a frequency state of willingness, which is a 325 or 350 level of consciousness that elevates your being and your cells to operate in proper function. And they turn nerves on that weren't on, and they wipe out the response. We are a 40 trillion cell system operating at any given state of consciousness and emotion. So they've proven, Bruce Lipton is a champion leader in the biology of emotion. And when you hold an energy of hope, this is Joe Dispenza, envision in your mind a low back that doesn't hurt, and hold with joy in your heart that pain is gone. And what would it be like if you could move? Envision bending and touching and twisting. And in that 2-minute process of envisioning a back that doesn't hurt, the pain starts to go away and you start turning into a vibrational 40 trillion cell being that is becoming the body without pain. So again, where do you want me to come from? With all my wisdom about frequency and quantum physics and emotion and the heart, with neurology, the brain, thoughts, and classic pain management, we are very complex beings. And who's willing to start putting in this work of gaining control of your emotions and your reaction and realize that, I mean, nobody wants to hear this, but we are the generators of all of our disease and we're the generators of all of our healing. We are the mini creators based on our current state of vibration.
No, like, and I, again, in my monkey brain of how I say it, I'm like, I'll just be like, well, this sucks, but I'm not going to die. And I kind of just go about my day.
And
like that's
your heart has equated that to, I'm safe, I'm okay with this,
yeah.
I'll be fine.
If I'm not going to die,
You have faith.
I can move through it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it will suck. And even if it's part of it, but I also like have the belief of like, I can pretty much like, I'll get through it and it'll get fixed, whatever that means. And honestly, then I take it like, I'm just going to make it better. So let me like I call it like bulletproof my shit as best I can. But then you do have this body awareness about yourself. And I think that's a huge piece for people too. But it is true if you, I think sometimes if it's me personally, like if I'm sore or I'm tired, whatever the fuck my little bitch issue is for the day, like just being busy and getting up and moving, like just makes life better than sitting and stewing on
focusing on it.
Yes.
Focusing on it will keep it.
It's the worst.
Especially if you have worry around it. Now you're just neurotically worrying and keeping the signal alive.
Because we've all had that where it's like maybe it's like the like the pain pathways and movement pathways, like in your brain, essentially, it's the same track. Like you stub your toe, you move around. It's like it helps to track it. You don't just like bash your hand and then fucking sit still.
Right.
The adrenaline from moving and all the things, it does make it better. And there's times where you've cut yourself in the yard or you've done something and you didn't even notice it.
Right.
But yet if you did it and then you sat there and stared at it, it becomes this thing. That's how, like, when you describe that, I'm like, okay, that makes sense to me. But we do that with pain and with injury. Oh, I injured myself or I'm hurt. Now I'm going to sit at home and focus on my ankle hurts, my ankle hurts, my ankle hurts. I can't do shit. It's like, well, no. You can still do all these other things. You just can't do everything that you want to do, how you want to do it, exactly how you want to do it.
Well, and it's what we talked about with joy. People who are injured but like to move, they want to play pickleball, they want to golf, their injury robs them of hope and they go in what if scenarios. What if I can never golf again? They go into fear, and that's where fascia science is really helping me guide people. We have to manage the thought and the emotion around the injury, and if you can do that, you'll heal so much faster. That's why I make it a part, and some people don't want to talk about it. Some people do. The open-minded people heal faster.
Well, for me too, like, and if you've been hurt like before, I've never had like a knock on wood. I can't have a catastrophic thing. It's not going to work for me. I've never had those. I go, but when you've been hurt before and then maybe you have like a tightness or a stiffness or some pain in the same area again, your brain does default to, fuck, I can't do this again. Because that sucked so bad the last time. Like, I can't do, and then you do go down that rabbit hole of like, well, fuck, how long am I going to be jacked up this time? And that there is something to that where it's like, not that you're searching for it, but you pull from like these previous experiences you've had, and then you get into that loop cycle of, well, now I'm fucked and I can't do the thing I want to do. It's if you ever watch The Office, and only diehard fans will get this, there's an episode where Creed's on there and they talk about like he can't scuba anymore, and he's just like, well, if I can't scuba, what's this all about? And I'm like, I thought it was dumb when I heard it. And I'm like, but if I can't like work out, like, what are we doing?
What are you going to do?
If I can't lift and be jacked, like, what do we do? What's this life even? What are we even doing here? And I know like some people are like, that's, if you go to like, I guess I'll put it this way. Like I've worked with so many doctors and all across the board for a long period of time. And they're like, well, you don't need to do this anymore. Like the way that you do it. And I'm like, you don't know. It's the No Country for Old Men. You don't know what you're talking about. Like, you don't know who the fuck, you don't know what you're like. No, I do need to do this. No, I don't need to do certain things. I go, but this is what I do. It's like telling like an apple tree not to grow apples. Like if this is your thing, it's just your thing. And so if you are a active, and most people who listen to this like do train,
Sure.
they are over 20 years old, they have had injury, they're going through shit. Like to have it taken away from you does suck. But again, I'll tell anybody listening, like it's just temporary. It will get better. Like you will be able to fix it. And often, I guess that was my segue to the question. Like how many times have you seen people where you've worked with them and then it's like, we can't, your body can't heal itself. We can't really fix you. We can't give you the tools. We can't get you there. You need to go have this major surgery. That's the only fix. Like how many times has that happened?
Twice.
In 20 years?
Yeah.
Which is great. But then there's probably a good number of people who came to you who was like, hey, I have to have surgery. I'm just gonna come see you first just in case you can help me, but I'm probably gonna have the surgery anyway. Or maybe they even had it probably fucking scheduled, which is crazy.
This is this concept of MRIs and diagnostic imaging, and the doctor goes, yeah, you have severe arthritis, and they ultimately assume that that's the generator of their pain. And then I'll find the nerve impingement in their trap and clear it and realize that that was 90% the cause of their pain, not the arthritic finding in the image. So oftentimes for my patients, I'll say, give me 3 visits prior to going and getting an image to keep your mind ignorant and innocent of what you're going to hold to be the cause and what the doctor who reads it is going to say, this is why. If we don't have severe nerve loss, muscle strength, and, organ dysfunction, we're going to try to treat it through the fascia and reintegrate. And so how I treat everybody is the same way. I assess the chronic condition. I palpate the body. I start loosening up the body with high frequency vibration. The percussion tools work as a stimulator to create hydration and water. So the Theragun and all those hypervolts, they're like 10, 15%. They do something. Then I start stretching them. Then, if they're willing and it's a chronic issue, we'll connect with the body. And what I used to do emotion code, and I used to find the specific emotions at what age, what person anchored them into the tissue. And now I say something very simple. Connect with your body. Say, dear body, thank you for holding on to whatever emotion I didn't realize I was holding on to. And in my sincerest gratitude, realize that you were doing it because you love me and you were protecting me. And in my appreciation, I give you permission to relax. And in a couple deep breaths with that connection, usually my fingers right on that zone of tension, they focus their mind onto that body part. An energetic whoosh is transmuted and the tissue softens and they can feel immediate reduction in pain and an ease in my touch. The sensation I'm putting on them relaxes and gets less painful, and then they have more range of motion. And if I need to move joints because they're misaligned from that fascia, we move the joint. And so that's my combination for every single patient I treat, and the results are great.
Well, and the imaging stuff too, and this is probably the best thing I would tell anybody, because when you get, again, it's the same thing. The scans are, again, like you rupture your Achilles, it is what it is. Like they got to attach that bitch back. Like that's, again, that would fall under the catastrophic things you don't want to have.
You need a surgeon for that.
But the other stuff, like if it is arthritis or the spine stuff, because that's the only one I've ever had, it's just a snapshot in time of who you are in the moment. That's not who you are forever. And I think people think that, oh, this is what my stuff is like. Yeah, but just today at 3:42, that's what it was. It might have been like that the last 7 months. It might not be like that in 2 days. Who fucking knows? But when you see that, though, that's the Google doctor where it's like, we convince ourselves, though, now we're
permanent.
Yes, and we're fucked. And I'm not against those things because they're great tools to pinpoint stuff. I go, but when you adopt the belief of like, well, this is what my spine looks like and knees look like, and correct me if I'm wrong here, I don't know if there's a person after the age of whatever, 25, that would go in and if we looked at your ankles, your knees, your hips, your spine, your shoulders, everything's perfect. No. Like if you've trained it all, like if you're not a fucking bag of shit, like you've put stress on the body, like you've done this many reps or you've swung a bat this many times, there's going to be imbalances, asymmetries, and you're going to have some things that go on. It's just called living life.
Sure.
But I think people think like, oh, my scan should look. That's the same thing I think about blood work. My blood work should look perfect, whatever the fuck that means.
Right.
My MRI, they should all look perfect. I'm like, I don't think that person exists.
No. And just to, since I'm here and I'm talking about this, let's talk about arthritis and how it's 100% preventable. There's a belief system that if you age, arthritis is a part of aging.
And what is it? Just like overuse? Is that the belief?
No,
or what
it's
is it?
fascia. It's fascia tension.
Like what? Like when you go to your normal doctor, though, is that what he tells you?
That's what they say. Oh, you're 65. You've got some bone spurs and some light arthritis. It's mild, but this is a part of aging.
And so, what is the prescription? They just tell you you're fucked, or they give you something? For that?
Basically, I had a guy with a shoulder strain, and the doctor's like, "You're 62," and he didn't touch him. He didn't assess him. He said, "You're old. Good luck."
That's
And I'm like, that's healthcare?
When that's what I'm talking about, where you go to these guys, and again, there's a million amazing doctors.
Sure.
I go, but when you go to them, like, oh, you don't have to do this anymore. It's like, no.
No, that provides joy, and my human experience is about passion and joy. That's it.
But what are you telling a guy? He's 62, and you can't put your hands over your head anymore?
No, he was trying to work out, and he was tight from his 20 years of driving in a car that altered his alignment, and he strained according to his current state of fascial tension and posture. But what I'm getting at is like places like the deltoid and the bicep by the elbow and the forearm are fascial tension anchor points that are pulling at your neck, compressing it, and degrading your joint. So I invented a stainless steel tool to work the elbow, to work the bone on the deltoid. And when I lift the tissue off of the deltoid for 3 minutes, the upper trap calms down. The tension in the neck is released because of all of your kettlebell swings in the deltoid. When we wash the tissue and get it out of its chronic tension in places that a lot of people don't know it exists, you're preventing neck arthritis by being able to whip your arm around and stretch that whole fascial chain, make it a daily movement. If you can swing your arm around and you can use a stainless tool and sweep your body really vigorously and you have no pain, that will equate to minimizing your arthritis.
So movement.
The movement, all of it. Moving it under a fascial stretch load that no one's taking the stretch to. So I'm asking you to whip your wrist down, twist it, and swing it behind. It's not a common stretch. You can't stretch the deltoid. So I was coming up with ways, how do you get a fascial stretch in the deep front arm fascial chain to prevent neck arthritis? And so it's whipping the wrist and swinging. But here's another concept with blood work. Like thyroid's been on the rise. Hyperthyroid, hypothyroid, fascia anchoring into the thyroid gland, pulling on it, will start to denature it and deregulate its hormone production and ability to receive hormones. I've got a 15-year-old that came in with an earache. I worked her jaw. I worked her ear. I worked her scalp. I worked the side of her neck, the front of her neck, and I opened up the fascial tension that was pulling on her ear. And within 10 minutes, her earache was gone. Her pediatrician probably would have given her an antibiotic for an earache, ear infection. I loosened the fascia. She also has an enlarged thyroid globulins. So the same fascia that's in her neck pulling on her ear is already, as a 15-year-old, tugging on the lining and multiple cells of her thyroid. So how many of us have thyroid issues from the deep front fascial chain anchored in our hips, anchored in our rib cage, on our sternum, on the front of our neck, into our jaw, pulling downward on the thyroid from excessive sitting? These are new. This is a whole new way where I need to get grant studies, and I need to have 3 times a week, 30-minute mobility clinics where I'm stretching the neck in ways that nobody stretches it, and then do 3 and 6 month blood work analysis to see if movement is fixing the thyroid.
And that's the tough part, where it's like it just takes the time, the effort, and the energy, and even if I do think if a normal person was presented with it, like you'd get a good percentage that would be like, yeah, I'm willing to do that.
Sure.
You'll get, and because I don't think,
We just haven't proven it. I'm sitting here coming up with creative ways that if I have it in me, I will get grants, I will get people with thyroid conditions, and I will start making my own case studies.
And I would think that, to me, it sounds, I won't talk about this forever, but there's a book, it's called Think Like a Freak, and they do the same example I'm going to give you is they were doing like gastric bypass or like lap band stuff. And the guy's like, that's fucking extreme. And he gives other examples. He's like, well, you could also like puke in a jar, wear it around your neck, and every time you wanted to eat, you would smell it, and then you wouldn't be hungry. And people are like, that's fucking crazy. Or he's like, you could put like, 50 little paper cuts on your lips, and every time you try to eat, it would be difficult. And they're like, that's fucking crazy. He goes, yeah, I know those two things are crazy, but is it crazier than having a life-altering surgery, opening up your body and do it? And go, it's not.
Right.
Those are way less invasive. They're way less permanent. There's way less damage to the body. They're way easier to fix and heal from and come back from versus this thing. Yet we've framed it like that is crazy, but this is not. And that's what you're kind of describing is, and I'm not, like, I don't know shit about the thyroid. I mean, I only know if like people like basically give them Synthroid or whatever the fuck they put them on, and that's what their journey is. I go, I don't know what the fix is, but for me from the outside, just hearing that, if you presented to me like, Jeremy, your thyroid is fucked, here's your option is go take these pills, or you could try this thing. And then if that doesn't work, this is always the option.
Sure.
Like the pills and the injections and the surgery to me are always the option. The manual therapies, not that they're not, but I would do the least invasive things always first for an extended period of time. And then I could default if I had to.
Well, and combine them and get to where whatever works. I'm willing to do anything in conjunction with another to get the result. But like a prostate's another example. The inner thigh chain from your calf into your inner thigh is pulling on your prostate gland. And we have prostatitis, prostate cancer. 2 men in my family have prostate cancer. And then you have benign hypertrophic prostate, which is making men get up and have to pee in the middle of the night, all this.
BPH for you
BPH.
local folks out there.
So here we go. What 55-year-old men, when you lay them on their back and I stretch their inner thigh, who's got full split range of motion? No one.
Oh, bro.
So inner thigh fascial tension.
It's the tightest. I've been working on the splits for 2 years.
Yeah.
I'm pretty much there. But front splits only.
But that,
Side splits? No.
I'm just saying, that is the cause of prostate issue. Not, what else would it be?
But I do, you're not I had a Dr. Carrie Yeager on here. She's a pelvic floor PT. Walked through the whole thing.
She's talking about the same thing.
Yeah, and because I asked him, like, did you see, she said, like, during the pandemic, honestly, way more people, which was weird to me. And I go, like, women? She goes, dudes. Like, even, like, young dudes would come in, having the same thing, urgency issues, incontinence, that type of shit. She goes, because I think the stress of life, the world,
It's
whatever.
fear.
Yeah, and then obviously not moving. And if you look at any dude, like, hips, groin, adductors, the inner hamstring, they're all fucked. Like, put dudes here, like, through, like the Frogger stretch or even, like, the threading.
Oh, dude.
It's atrocious to watch. I mean, mine were insanely tight.
Yeah.
Like, and they, not that, I mean, they're way better, but I'm like, I still train, so they're going to get tight. I go, but I do believe that's a huge thing. And that's something that's not talked about in terms of just, like, pelvic floor health and the tissue there. She's a huge fan of, obviously, the least invasive stuff possible. But a lot of that, like a lot of the threading, the same thing you're saying, the washing, we call it like joint juicing, really no different. But no, that is a huge thing. But I don't think, again, normal guy, you go in, you're over 40, here's what your issue is. We're going to give you whatever the fucking drugs are.
Sure.
Whether they work or not, who knows? And here's the thing. And then obviously the testing for that is not something most dudes want to go through because it's not a pleasant experience. I go, but no mention of pelvic floor health, no mention of stretching, no mention of fat. There's zero fucking around that. Yeah, you're going to jump into the world of like urology, which is...
That's
like,
just what we're used to.
Yeah, and like, but again, even the testing for that, there's only 2 routes that can go up, bro. Neither of them are pleasant.
Right.
And it's like, if you're telling me like that's the default, or I could just go through this routine for 6 weeks, 8 weeks, a couple times a week, and if my symptoms improved, like, what the fuck? I do think that's a huge one, too, for dudes, too. I do think the tissue tightness and the chronic stress, too. I think those both play into it.
And that's all fascia. So we're going to create mobility movement centers that are movement-based healthcare centers and start teaching humans that as we gain mobility, if stress is the cause of all disease and you can get people to release their fascia, their innate system will be at peace. They will be in a state of ease, no longer in a state of dis-ease.
But I think the people live in it. I'll ask you 2 more questions. We'll get you out of here. I do think people live in this and don't realize like their base, because your baseline becomes so skewed, right? It's like you don't know how bad you feel. Like you don't know. I guess I was saying a normal person. Not people listen to this podcast are typically not normal because they. Why the fuck would you listen to me if you were in any stance? I go, but like a normal, like your average Joe who doesn't really exercise, doesn't give a shit. Like they've forgotten like what good feels like, and their baseline has become so skewed. And I think that with all these things, like this, they have this lower level overwhelm or anxiety or stress all the time. So they're if your base level is 0 of like your Zen, they're always at like a fucking 7, like every day. And then anything that happens, they get heightened. I guess I had an ENT surgeon I worked with for a long time. And I don't know if it was a book or what he told me, but obviously, so he does surgeries. He's like, we would do like, I think he called it green light, red light, like yellow light. It's like how we would kind of gauge our stuff. And he's like, if you wake up and everything's perfect in your life, it's a green light. You drive to work, you hit every green light, you find $20 on the ground, your wife thinks you're fucking, Jesus, like everything is great, you're perfect. And he goes, those don't really happen that much. The yellow light is like, maybe you got stuck in traffic for 2 minutes. He goes, but your wife still loves you. You come here, you had a good, like you were your normal. And then the red light is you got an argument with your kids about some bullshit. Somebody rear-ended you. You're super stressed. Like this happened. And then you're going into surgery that way. And he goes, that's like kind of the stages that we kind of gauge things. And I do think a normal person's kind of living in that red type shit all the time. And when you talk about like how stress affects the body and things, the thing I always go to is like when you're at like, even here on Sunday, because people get nervous when we do these workouts, which is actually crazy. The amount of like people who take a piss here 3 times or shit their pants before they work out, it's fucking insane. When you go to like a 5K race, 10K race, marathon, there's 80 porta potties. Yeah. They're 50 fucking people deep. On a normal day, they're not peeing 3 times before they go to a PowerPoint presentation. But that's a stress in your body. You're super hyped up. And I guess my whole point of that rant is I think a normal person lives at a much higher level of that now than you probably ever have. Now, it's different in 1883 when you're in the Oregon Trail and you're trying not to fucking, get eaten by wolves and shit. I go, and that's like, those are little events, but most of that day is just a boring, you're worried about food or whatever, but it's a boring, sweaty, gross, just nominal ride. You're in fight or flight now all the time, 24/7, 365, just feeding into this, like, I guess, not healthy lifestyle. And even when you think you're relaxing, are you even really relaxing? That's the weird thing. So I'll ask you this before we roll. Advice to somebody out there like who's just living in pain or they're struggling or they have some shit going on, just the top things. Like obviously you talked about mobility, flow, breathing, and some of that stuff. Is there any like a daily practice you do when you find yourself like you have a physical thing going on or a mental thing or like something that an easy takeaway for them to like just start doing within the next 10 minutes?
Yeah, I think it's everything I said. It's using your awareness to take 3 deep breaths. You're always trying to generate inner peace from within. So if you inhale energy up your legs into your heart, and on the exhale, you become the essence of inner peace. You're self-regulating 40 trillion cells. Calming your nerves, you're calming your pain. And we have to get into that state where we have to take, even if there's chaos going around, can you sit there and breathe and generate that essence of inner peace within on your own in that surrounding? Then you're mastering it. But becoming aware of all aspects of yourself, your thoughts, your emotions, the pain, breathing, the box breathing, and then movement washing the zone of the pain and generating this belief that you will heal, you're capable of healing, and you can get through it. And those are the recipes for maintaining a healthy body.
And I think those are all amazing. And I think, again, the more you guys, like, the more you do that, it just builds a confidence. And if you can do it a couple times.
Self-discovery.
It's doing reps.
Once you do it and you get rid of the pain, you have faith that that's a protocol that you want to keep using.
And it's It's a muscle that you built on.
Yeah.
Because you did it. I'll share this story quick when we get out of here. I do this, but I do it in like something's wrong in my brain. We were on this airplane flight going back to Portland with Heather, and I think it was August, and the air conditioning like stopped working on the tarmac. We're on the tarmac for 2 hours. And so it would go on and off for like 20 minutes and it would go off for 10 minutes. And I'm wearing my normal like all black hoodie joggers, the same stuff I wear to work every day because it's my travel outfit. And I'm fucking cooking, dude. Like I'm sweating my ass off in this plane. I'm not saying anything. Heather's over here. She's pregnant. She's crying, having a breakdown. People on the plane are getting off like when they still can and they're leaving and they're crumbling. And all I kept saying to myself is like, I'll be the last motherfucker on here, dude. I'm like, everyone on this plane can get off. I'm like, I'm still going to fucking sit here. I'm like, but if I can just breathe and be calm and not panic and change my facial expressions and do whatever, I'm like, it's going to be fine. Because it's going to get so uncomfortable. We're like, we're not going to die. They're not going to take off. It's going to be 800 degrees. And I know that sounds like a psychopathic thing. And I'm like, I'm not really competing with everyone on the plane, although I am. But the point is that you can build that muscle up over time. So when you're in these uncomfortable ass situations, which you'll be in all the time where everybody else is freaking out and panicking, you can just have a different perspective and experience in that moment. And like with your physical pain, I've had it too, where there's things where it sucks because I know people listening, like when you're in pain, it sucks. But if you can, you will get through it. And when you do, if you can reframe it and have perspective, it's probably like the greatest gift that you got because it shaped you for all the other shitty things that are probably going to come your way, and you just have a better understanding of how to handle them.
You're tapping into evolving toward enlightenment, and what we don't talk about in healthcare is that there's a frequency state of love that when you vibrate your heart and you know the attitude of gratitude, being thankful, loving yourself, loving your family. When you get into this state, it's only when you vibrate through your heart into that state that your body heals and gets you out of pain anyways. So what you're practicing is important. It's the only thing worth living here on earth practicing to do and do well because it will change your life. It changes who comes into your life. It changes your physical being. It changes your abundance. Enlightenment is a worthwhile practice for every reason why you should. And you're just eliciting that that's what you're practicing.
What do you think of that, Sean? Mic drop. Where can these guys... that's good stuff, dude. Thank you for being here, by the way.
Thanks,
this is the amount of comments I'm going to get from this episode is going to be abundant. Oh yeah, let's do all this stuff. Where's all your social media handles? Where can these guys stalk you at? How can they connect with you, work with you? All the important things. What fucking time is it? It is 12. I got a spring training game to go to. I'm gonna be late. It's fine. Give me all this. I'm gonna load this tomorrow.
It's just Dr. Fascia. You can find me on every social media, and my website is spelled out DoctorFascia.com. Dr. Fascia. I've got the most followers on TikTok, Instagram. I don't follow their algorithms, so nothing grows there. But
motherfucking TikTok, son.
I'm a TikToker.
I'll put all the links in the show notes because you share good stuff. It's all applicable stuff you can take, you can use.
Yeah.
If they have a question for you, just reach out
Reach out.
Yeah.
Find me on any text. DM me on TikTok. I've got an email, info@drfascia.com. I'll respond. I also sell this Dr. Fascia tool. I'm going to give Jeremy Scott podcasters a 25% off. I'm going to come up with a code that will be JSF 2025. And I'll probably run that code all 2025 year long.
I'll stick that in there too. I'll load this probably tomorrow sometime. But no, before I get off, I do use that tool at our house. It's easy to use on yourself, but to be honest, like I use it probably more on Heather, which it's part of the reason I fucking hate it. I wish we didn't have it because it's like then I have to do this shit, and it's
that was my intention.
Yeah, and the reason I say it is because like I'm not going to do like she'll go to Movement for massage and stuff because like I love those guys. And they're I'm just not going to spend 2 fucking hours massaging her. That's ridiculous. Like unless we're having sex, like what's this all about? And then I don't need to spend 2 hours to do that. So with my point is with the tool, if you have a partner, even if they're a lazy ass like me, you don't have to. It's not exhausting for me because hers is a lot of like neck, trap, rhomboid, and she just sits on the floor in front of me. I can sit on the couch, watch a game, and just go through.
Yeah.
And it doesn't take much effort on my end, and it gives her a lot of relief. And if it is yourself, like for me, to do because I'm having like this plantar fasciitis bullshit in my heel a little bit, just annoying enough. I really don't notice it most of the time. But for me to scrape like the bottoms of my feet, to do my calves, Achilles, it is super easy. You get so much pressure. It's to me, I would compare it to like a way better version of how you like barbell quad smash because that doesn't take any effort at all.
Right.
And this can do pretty much everything in the body on your own. So I'll put the link in there. No, but it's great. I use it a ton. So good stuff. Thank you, brother. This is awesome.
Thanks for having me.
I'll post all his stuff in the show notes. You guys check him out. Reach out to him. I've been working with him for, like 10, 15 years. I think we even have a YouTube video. It's got like 1 million views. Well, it was shot on the iPhone, which is crazy. Just scraping on my back like a motherfucker. But it was helpful. Anyways, side notes. You guys want a free sample of AG1? Obviously, hit me up. Old Man Strength Program. We're a week in. If you're on Spotify, drop it a 5-star. Leave a comment. If you're on Apple Podcasts, drop it a 5-star. Leave a comment there. Do not be a lazy ass. If you really love the shit that we do, Google review. 5 stars. It helps us. Just write Jeremy good or Jeremy's awesome. Whatever you want to do. I'll take any of it. And again, give Dr. G here a follow. I'll put his Instagram handle in the show notes. I'll put his TikTok in the show notes like he's a 14-year-old girl, and we'll be good to go. So appreciate you, brother, as always. Sean, thank you. And until next time, you guys, eat well, train hard, be nice to people, and please, you guys, keep doing shit you love with people you enjoy because your life is too short not to. I'll talk to you soon. Peace.